President and his family are enjoying Easter weekend at Mar-a-Lago. Meantime, his son, Don Jr., took to Twitter saying, "Trump voters, don't let liberals mislead you on so-called flip-flops." It comes amid major policy shifts on China, Syria, and some domestic issues. And it has some supporters wondering if the president is perhaps abandoning or looking at other options for his America First promise. To talk about it, Joe Lestingi, partner at the Chatterdown Group. Eric Beach is the co-chairman of the Great America Alliance. I guess you can figure out from the name of it that Eric is a Donald Trump supporter. Gentlemen, nice to have both of you with you. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Eric, reasonable people could agree that the president has, pick your adjective, flip-flop, changed his mind, evolved in his positions on a number of issues. Does it matter?
Well, no, during the campaign and his first 85 days, many of those on the other side have questioned both his experience and his temperament. And they should also take comfort that he's able to modify his positions in the interest of all Americans. You take, China, for example. He recently had a meeting, by all accounts, a very productive meeting with the Chinese president down in Florida. And what we're seeing out of that is some positive steps towards looking at North Korea. So I think you're having a president who ran a campaign. He was very explicit in what he was going to do as president, and he's taken a lot of steps toward all of those goals.
Joe, in that vein, is the liberal outrage a little much when it comes to the Donald Trump flip-flops, in the sense that he's, quote-unquote, flip-flopping to a position that is far more palatable to the liberal base?
This is kind of like giving a high school algebra student an A because he can add 2 plus 2. The thing is the president just caught up with where we were years ago. Everything that he has flip-flopped on has been a position that we have been talking about for in fact, since the beginning of the Obama presidency. Most of this stuff has come into play. We talked about Syria, we talked about China, we talked about North Korea, and he has been flip-flopping on all this all day.
Joe, there's some facts here that matter.
Sure.
The fact of the matter is the President Obama talked about Syria, drew a red line, didn't enforce it after the sarin gas attack, and Donald Trump did enforce it after the sarin gas attack.
This is where you and I will disagree. He went and bombed an airbase that planes took off of the next day and continued to shell that area, and then also didn't destroy the chemical weapons. It's all a facade. I'm actually kind of curious what we can believe coming out of this White House. The most hoodwinked people in this country have got to be the people who invested so much time and money and sweat and tears into him, believing that the America First policy was real, that he was going to back us out of NATO, that he was going to reset with Russia, all of these things, which none of them he has panned out on because they were never possible, and we've been saying that for years.
Eric, I'm going to let you respond to being hoodwinked in a minute, but there has been, in fairness, a part of the American electorate, a part of Donald Trump's supporters, who have become pretty angry over all this. There's a number of talk show radio hosts who have talked about it. There's a number of folks on Twitter. There's a big part of the Breitbart community that's going, hey, this is not exactly what we signed up for.
In his first 85 days, we were able to put a constitutional conservative on the Supreme Court. Illegal immigration is going down drastically. He has taken steps towards tax reforms and other reform agenda items that he ran on. He showed true grit during the campaign. We have a born nation, and basically what that means is, every single time that he talks about and he moves the needle, he's in a negotiating posture, and I think results matter. Joe mentioned, President Obama, and President Obama did a lot of talking during his tenure, and right now we have a president that's a president of action. He's a president that he shows that he has the experience and leadership to put Americans first. Those are his policies, and those are the policies that are being executed.
Except his base is not happy about this, right? I mean, InfoWars, all those guys are very upset because we got involved in Syria after he promised us we wouldn't. And in fact, after he chastised the prior president for that act, for even thinking about that action. So all of this is just, the biggest con continues. And it's not just me, by the way. This is something Republicans said throughout the primary. Throughout the primary, Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio made this case to Republicans, and they didn't believe it. And it's all just coming to a head now.
So, Eric, I'm going to give you the last word if you actually answer the question, and I'm not going to give you a chance to say yes or no. I'm just going to expect you to answer it. In this sense, there's no question that Donald Trump has changed some of his views, whether it be on NATO, whether it be on Syria. What's the answer? What's your answer to Republicans who say, wait a second, that's not what you promised, that's not what I voted for?
Well, first of all, he doesn't have a base. He doesn't have a ceiling of voters. He speaks for all Americans. FDR did this prior to going into World War II.
Whoa. He doesn't speak for all voters.
He does. He's the President of the United States.
That doesn't mean he speaks for us.
His number one job as President of the United States is to protect all Americans. And results matter. We had a president, his predecessor, that had a lot of talk and a lot of rhetoric, but results matter. You have to look at the results of the last 90 days, and you have to continue to support the president because those are the reform
executive orders,
items.
Backed out of his non-lobbying ban
Obama
already.
President Obama had 275.
On. I mean, like, what are you talking about? Those
President
are the results
Obama,
that are real.
President Obama had 275 executive orders. I don't remember any Democrats coming on to any shows talking about those executive orders.
I was on this network a lot talking about those executive orders.
All right, fellas. And somehow the Easter weekend did not breed more camaraderie and friendship among men. Joe, Eric, appreciate it, guys.